Peninsula Neighborhood, with its tree-lined, narrow streets, sidewalks and pedestrian network, parks and beautiful aesthetic, has been, for the most part, a giant success. So what makes the Peninsula Neighborhood work? What items did it need to create the perfect recipe for its success? Let's explore 5 of them. Okay, wait. Before we begin, let's explore the superhuman effort that was needed to even get this planning started. And it starts with that special relationship the city and the developer, that private and public sector had to have, and that necessity of the two to even get such a project started. The Peninsula Neighborhood is an OPD, which means it's a planned development. It doesn't fit within your normal city code. It has large initial costs due to its unique design of narrow streets, alleys, and parks. And this required patience and relationships as the key driving factor between the city and the developer. It needs capital investments for transit networks and infrastructure amenities. You need restructuring and local political cooperation and zoning and land use regulation changes. I don't want to get into all that. That's a whole separate video. I just want to talk about the 5 successful recipes for its start. And that begins with community. Community is what the biggest thing is that drives people's interest to this place. It's not for everyone. Different strokes, different folks, narrow lots, closer to your neighbors, but these front porches and pedestrian networks and common park areas, it kind of drives everyone out and into these common spaces. And that was its entire intention and goal. That was what traditional neighborhood design was based on. To create this community, you need a strong HOA, and that has passionate individuals, most of them volunteers, people that live in the neighborhood that are passionate about the community and the development. You need community events and seasonal get-togethers. And this neighborhood has parties. It has 4 of them a year. And it's just a chance to go out and meet your neighbors. And walkability. Walkability is really key. If my wife's late getting home from work, I can sit on the porch or go out for a walk, and some other neighbor comes by and says hi and stops, and they're out for a walk, and we chat and come up, have a glass of wine or beer or a cup of coffee, and you chat. That community aspect is so key to making a successful new urbanism development, and particularly what attracts people to this neighborhood. So part of the walkability also has a number of trails throughout the neighborhood. So 72 acres in the total development, but half of it was left as greenscape and natural forested areas. And so there's some trails here that are just great for walking the dog or hiking trails. And that network just kind of surrounds the bluff overlooking the Iowa River, and the neighbors and general public, they use them all the time. We also have a lot of pets in this neighborhood. The joke is there's more dogs than people. In some aspects there are. I have 3 dogs and I live out here and I'm not helping the per capita. But all that dog network with the pedestrian friendly streets means we need to have dog waste bags. So the neighborhood has put in, I don't know, a dozen of these throughout the neighborhood, and then a number of trash cans as well for taking care of dog waste. The second is the mixed use design. I mean, that's probably one of the most noticeable things about new urbanism is having a mix of condos and townhouses and single family homes and small, medium, and large townhouses and small, medium, and large single family homes and live work and commercial spaces. All of that is within this planned development. And that creates kind of like its own small, separate town. And those different housing types are really important to creating the diversity of people from ages to income levels. And that goes back to community. That just strengthens the community aspect. So part of that mixed use design, the biggest, most important part is the commercial aspects. And so we have a live work building here right off the park. In fact, every unit that surrounds a park is live work on the main level. But this building was specifically designed for that. We have a coffee shop, we have a personal trainer. Right here we have a restaurant. And over here on the end, we even have a hair salon. And these businesses do really well, and they're important for that third space community aspect for people to get together and see their neighbors and have a central gathering spot. And so, of course, it was located right on the park because that's centrally located for the whole design. Okay, so the third thing is CCNR, and that's Code, Covenants, and Restrictions. And that's essentially the governing body that, for the whole neighborhood, protects the design and the integrity. And the integrity is the key to the neighborhood. It's the visual aesthetics in this design that draws a lot of people in. And it's very strict code. Most of the time cities don't get involved with the code. That's on the developers, and developers usually leave it, a couple things like roof pitches or this and that, but they don't get into very strict code. In the peninsula, anything, when visible from the street, needs to go follow the code and needs to get permission to have any changes done. And the whole goal here is to protect the aesthetics and the overall design look of it. And this helps increase equity in your real estate portfolio. And on average, new urbanism developments appreciate faster than its suburban counterpart. And we've seen that just in this neighborhood, where the average appreciation's been anywhere from 4 to 6% a year versus 2 to 4% in our suburban neighborhood next door. So fences in the neighborhood have a rule that's borrowed from the authentic Charleston, South Carolina. And how it works is going from west to east, the houses own up to the house next to it. And so this yellow house has a fence that goes up to the greenhouse. And then the greenhouse's fence, the third side of that fence is the side of its house. And then the greenhouse benefits to the blue house next door, so on and so forth, all the way down the line. And that allows us to maximize land use and still have a private backyard. It's a very cool example of how the covenants work to really maximize land use. This house even has a picket fence. Picket fences are allowed in the front yard as well, and so that's a good space for the dog to run around or keep the kids inside as well. The fourth item is mass transportation. Public transit creates racial, income, and mobility equities and helps drive growth. The city added the buses a couple years into the development, and it really took off the demand for the neighborhood. And so the bus here, it comes on the hour right now, and every 30 minutes during rush hour. And that's really important for people that are working outside the neighborhood, and that really helps with that income equity and job equity and just the mobility equities that you need for a successful community. We talked about it a little bit earlier, but the sidewalks here are extra wide, and these street-lined trees create shade. So when I walk to neighbors' houses, to parks, to coffee shops, to get my mail, I have nice shade and shelter from the street. And that's important because we have those narrow streets again. This also helps create mobility options for all users and abilities, and that goes back to having those mobility equities for people in wheelchairs or ADA accessibilities. The fifth item that is really important to the success of the Peninsula neighborhood is the parks. The green spaces and common areas took a lot of time in the plan and development to come up with where they'd be located. There's currently 7 parks in the Peninsula neighborhood. You probably can find 2 or 3 of them readily easily, but the other ones are kind of hidden pocket parks. The main park is the center park, and that's Emma Harvett Square. Emma Harvett Square is named after the first female mayor for a major city in the United States. In fact, actually, all the streets in the Peninsula neighborhood are named after former mayors of Iowa City. Kind of a fun fact. So this is one of these pocket parks. This park, the community actually developed and put together, came up with the design, and it's really kind of a cool park. It's fenced all the way in, and you can take your dog or kids here and hang out, and it's an enclosed space, and you don't have to worry about anyone getting in the street or the alleys. They have a number of fun things going on here. There's a lot of vegetation, as you can see. There's park benches, there's little street lights, there's a little place to play chess. We got a swing. Just kind of turned out to be this fun little community park space. The green spaces are so important because we have small yards, we have small lots, and it reinforces the community by people being able to come back and come to these spaces and see neighbors. So if I go take my kid down to the park, good chance that one of my other neighbors' kids can be down the park. And it's that whole social and third space reinforcement. So this is a perfect example of how the community has events and get-togethers. There's actually the summer events occurring this weekend. And so there's a sign out advertising for it. And so this park area is what they'll use for their event. And they're just made to allow neighbors to get together and socialize and get to go know your neighbor better. And it's just a great community aspect. Now, the developer put in this gazebo here, and the gazebo was really important to having this kind of central gathering space. And this park was designed to be that central gathering space. And so it turned out really well. The Peninsula neighborhood has been a huge success. It's not for everyone. It's not the first of its kind. It was very revolutionary at its time when the city started talking about it in 1999, and then they started in 2003 because it was big on the East Coast and the West Coast, but we didn't really have any here in the Midwest. And since then, we are seeing them explode all over the Midwest. In fact, what prompted me to want to do this video is the fact that we're starting to see so many more of them come up in discussion because they are successful, they are desired and in high demand, and they're really a sustainable use of land for the future. We can't do urban sprawl forever, and we need to look back at the past and take some tips on other ideas and designs that worked. And I am very excited about traditional neighborhood design and seeing these new urbanism developments come up. And I hope others are inspired to do it as well. It's not easy. It takes a ton of planning and cooperation between that public and private sector, that developer and the city. But the end result is huge success. And I hope to see more of them. And I'll make some more videos in the future and discuss some other great things about the Peninsula neighborhood.